This is a Dragon Blazer production, and I am the little boogeyman.
All right. Coming down the aisle, it's the podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And today, we're going to be covering WrestleMania 8, April 5th, 1992. The headline act here, and until we watch it, I don't know how they put it in order, but the picture they show on the network is Hogan versus Sid Justice, which is funny because it is not for the WWF Heavyweight Championship, which that match is going to be Ric Flair versus Macho Man Randy Savage. So, I don't know which one's officially going to be the main event, but I always thought it was Hogan Sid Justice. I didn't actually realize, or maybe I just forgot, that wasn't for the World Heavyweight Championship. Which is kind of funny.
We're just used to Hogan having the title or being around it somehow.
And so I'm honestly not sure if I remember this pay-per-view very well. So I'm actually very, very, very excited to watch this one. Just because of the uncertainty for me. It's not one of the famous ones that I remember a lot about.
I'm excited to watch all these pay-per-views.
You know what I mean. And some of them I have recently rewatched. You know what I mean? Or some of them are so iconic you remember a lot of them. So this is not one of those for me.
Pretty positive I've never seen this, so...
All right, so we got one more thing to get to before we get to WrestleMania, and it's a new year for us for 1992, which means we have a new slew of video games to discuss.
It's a new year. Yes, it is.
So the video game we are going to discuss today came out in August of 1992. It is WWF Superstars 2. And it was for the Game Boy video game system. So this is a sequel to a game we already got, but it actually seems to be stripped down and worse, to be honest. Which
it looked like I felt bad for every child that got WWE Superstars 2 in their Christmas presents. I mean, holy crap, only 6 wrestlers.
Yeah, so...
one of them being the Mountie.
6 wrestlers was Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, The Undertaker, Sid Justice, Jake the Snake Roberts, and for some reason the Mountie. Kind of odd choice in characters here. Well, actually, it wasn't too odd of choices. Just seems like there was a lot better wrestlers than that could have. I mean, Bret the Hitman Hart could have filled that spot. $1 Million Man, Roddy Piper. I mean, there's a lot of guys that could have been, but then they put the Mountie. So it kind of shows you where the WWF really thought the Mountie was going to be something maybe more than he really was.
The only thing worse would have been if it was the Repo Man.
Yeah, could have been. So every wrestler has the same movesets. Nobody had any signature moves, so this was just a very stripped down, and actually, to be completely honest, worse than the predecessor.
It's not. There wasn't a question about it. It was probably the worst game we've watched since doing this.
Yeah,
it was absolute crap. It looked boring. I kept dozing off watching it.
Wow.
Not because I'm tired, but just because, holy crap, it was boring. I mean, I would rather get coal for Christmas.
Now, it did have
you really hate your children if you got this for your kids.
It did have a single match, a tag team match, and it did have a steel cage match. So that's kind of kind of neat that you could play a horrible game in all those different modes. It also had a multiplayer mode where you could play another Game Boy. You could link up 2 Game Boys and play it multiplayer that way. So you can share the misery with another kid. So you and another kid can hook up 2 Game Boys and be bored together, and it sounds like possibly fall asleep and drop your Game Boy and break it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is how you break your Game Boy. This is the kind of present you get if your father is Chris Watts.
So this is a disclaimer that this game could cause breakage of your Game Boy. It could cause serious harm and serious sleep issues. So this is our disclaimer. Probably do not play WWF Superstars 2 for Game Boy.
No, this should be buried right alongside E.T., the video game.
Oh, now, come on now. I don't know about that. It is a functioning, working game. E.T. was not a functioning, working game.
Are you sure? Because all I saw was kick, 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 kick. Ooh, there's a punch, 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 punch.
And you've already named off more things than you could have done in E.T.
Punch and kick?
Okay. So it is about time to move on from the video game section here. We will have another great video game to cover on our next episode. There is a couple that released in 92, so we'll be back for more of that.
Are you sure that it's a great video game? Because that was not a great video game.
No, this is true. They might not be great video games, but it'll be great coverage.
Cheap pop!
But we need to get on with it. It is time to jump in to WrestleMania 8.
All right, let's go back to the past. Blue, blue, blue.
Okay, so we are here at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana, for WrestleMania 8. And first thing we get is the national anthem from the Reba McEntire.
Yeah, she's one of my country exceptions. Not a big fan of country, but I do like me some Reba.
Yeah, she probably the best guest they've had to sing the national anthem so far in 8 WrestleManias.
And it's not just that she's probably the one we enjoy the most. She actually was really good. Like, she did some really interesting stuff when she sang it that was a little unique and different.
Well, she is awesome, so that makes sense. So,
would you say she's awesome?
I would think she's phenomenal. We do this all day.
She's too sweet.
So anyhow, so after she sings the national anthem, we move on to our first match, which is first person out is the El Matador, Tito Santana, and his opponent, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, with Sensational Sherry by his side. And we get to hear the first time his theme music, except it sounds a little different because it is sang by Sensational Sherry.
I'm just a sexy boy.
Sexy boy.
I'm not your boy toy.
Boy toy. So, this match was pretty good. It wasn't as great as, most Shawn Michaels matches, but it was still very, very entertaining. It just didn't seem like he's quite there yet. I mean, you saw moments.
Oh, yeah, you saw flashes.
But this didn't... I mean, don't get me wrong, we haven't seen the rest of the matches on the card, but this didn't appear to probably steal the show. Most Shawn Michaels matches at WrestleMania steal the show. I don't know if this categorizes as...
No. Agreed. But we got to see a little bit of his patented overselling of moves. Like, he would get a hit and he would just... It was like he tore it apart.
Yeah, the overselling is definitely one thing he does great. So because of the lack of greatness to this match, good match, just not on the level that we're used to seeing Shawn Michaels. I'm going to have to give this 3.5 super kicks.
I'm going to give this, and I kind of agree with you, I'm giving this 3 throw her to the ground.
Wow. Yes, at the end of the match. At the end of the match, he did awkwardly throw Sherry to the ground and then do his signature pose where he kind of...
Not quite his signature one.
No, not quite. He doesn't flex the muscles. He just kind of holds out his arms. But he does do a variant of his signature pose. And he also super kicks Tito Santana in the match, but he does not tune up the band. So it was not technically Sweet Chin music.
And then the ending was kind of odd. We think Sherry grabbed the legs of El Matador, and Shawn just kind of like drops on him. So we think that Sherry grabbed grabbed his legs, tripped him or something, and he got the 1, 2, 3 off of a trip. It wasn't even a splash. It's not like he jumped on him. It was like Tito was lifting him up, and then Shawn fell on him. So, it was kind of a weird ending. Nothing super spectacular in this match, but it was still Shawn Michaels, and I still got to see some of that great overselling he does.
Definitely. All right, let's continue on. Okay, after that match, next thing we get is a Legion of Doom interview with their manager, Paul Ellering. This is the first time they have shown Paul Ellering in the WWF.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because, like, he seemed like he was a heel manager. Which, actually, back then, how many faces had managers?
Yeah, I don't feel that was... I get why you thought that, but I think the whole persona is they're badasses. You know what I mean? So
they need a manager?
No, that's why he felt heelish to you, because... The manager goes with the Legion of Doom characters. They're badasses.
Okay, fair enough.
So, anyhow, he was a badass manager. And not a bad guy, but, a badass manager. So it was another great promo from them. They're always great on the mic. And then after that, we get a promo from Jake the Snake Roberts talking about his upcoming match against The Undertaker. And then they show some... footage of that feud and what's been going on, and apparently Jake Snake Roberts hit the DDT on Paul Bearer at one point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jake the Snake's going to win this match.
I'm still not letting Jake have any snakes to the ring. I'm guessing that's over with.
Which is a travesty.
Damn PETA. So, I'm guessing that... I'm sure Macho Man getting bit didn't help. I'm sure that's...
No, I imagine.
That's probably...
Well, it's not so much that he got bit. It's the fact that he got bit and then wouldn't let go.
And then he ended up causing him some issues.
Yeah.
After that, we finally get the match. And this match, it was Jake Snake Roberts versus The Undertaker with Paul Bearer as his manager. And I thought this was an awesome match. Hell of a match.
I don't know if I'd go hell of a match, but it was a good match. It was a good match between two great wrestlers. You also got a little bit of Undertaker taking 2 DDTs in this match.
I was going to say, he took 2 DDTs in the same match and then did his sit-up, the thing he does. I just thought this was a great match. It was physical. I'm going to give this match...
Okay, let me put it to you like this. It's not that I thought it was a bad match. I liked the match. I thought it was a good match. Do I think this is one of the best matches we've watched on this podcast? No, but it was a decent match.
Well, it was so good, I'm giving it 4 urns.
4 urns, huh? I'm going to be close to that. I think I'm going to be close to that. I'm going to give it 3.5 missing snakes.
Missing snakes?
Missing snakes.
Okay.
Because I missed the snakes.
Okay, so after the match, we do have another interview, and this is a first. I do not recall this ever happening. We have an interview with the opponents standing right next to each other doing the interview.
Yeah, it was a good interview, too.
Yeah, so this is a interview with Roddy Piper. He's the Intercontinental Champion, and he's going to be taking on Bret the Hitman Hart. And they interview them both at the same time, and this is only, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only second heel or face versus face match that I can recall us having during this podcast.
I think you're right, and I enjoyed this interview because Rowdy just kept on talking about how he's known Bret Hart since he was a little kid, and kept
mentions
on
how Bret Hart took
seven
7 years old before he got
you waited
potty
until
trained.
you were 7 before you stopped wetting the bed, but hey, that's okay, man.
Even took a dig at his mother, saying, she made me bologna sandwich and only one piece of bologna, but that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
So, it was a very entertaining interview. Bret Hart didn't really say much. This was mostly conducted by Rowdy. But it created a little tension before the match because of, Rowdy kind of picking fun at him. But, it was just interesting because our first face versus face was, Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. I don't recall them interviewing them side by side during that WrestleMania, though.
Not when they were facing each other.
Not that night when they were facing each other. So to get this interview right before this Intercontinental Championship title match was, in my opinion, very, very interesting because we hadn't seen that before.
Right.
All right. Wow. All I have to say is, wow, what a match. This was what WrestleMania is all about. This is an amazing title match between two guys, Bret the Hitman Hart, Roddy Piper for the Intercontinental Championship. And this is one of the best matches I think we've seen in the podcast.
Yeah, I love this match. This match was fantastic. Two great wrestlers, and it lived up to the hype. Because as soon as I saw that we were getting an intercontinental match between Bret the Hitman Hart and Roddy Piper, I had high expectations.
Yeah, and it told a very pretty touching story where Rowdy could have, with the referee down, Rowdy could have taken a shortcut, used the ring bell, and, pretty much ended Bret Hart, but he chose not to. And of course that backfired on him by not doing it because Bret the Hitman Hart ends up getting the 1, 2, 3 in a very different fashion. He didn't use a sharpshooter to win. He did a flip over the turnbuckle while he was in a sleeper hold and, like a odd variant of a pin, and it was just a very unique way of ending the match.
Lots of blood.
Bret Hart got busted open during this match, and this was just why you watch WrestleMania for moments like this. And I'm actually surprised I haven't heard more about this match in the history of WrestleMania. Like, why isn't this match talked about as one of the greats?
I don't know. It was really, really good. Really enjoyed it. I loved it, and that part with Roddy Piper, holding that ring bell. As a good guy, Rowdy hasn't been above, using some dirty tactics. It's like he was a weird face because. Even when he's a face, he's not always the cleanest face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of reminds you of like Eddie Guerrero. When he was a face, but he was cheating. Yeah, he made it fun. Roddy Piper is kind of that on the edge of a heel, but you root for him, and he comes off as a face, but he does some dirty things, bites you, or he does some nasty stuff. But
here he was about to, and he decided not to. He didn't want to cheat to win, and it bites him in the ass. And it's such a touching end too, because Rowdy loses. He's visibly upset and disappointed, but he grabs that belt and he puts it right on there on Bret Hart and helps him up and like carries him out of the ring. I mean, it was a really cool, touching end. Really great match. I loved it. I'm trying to debate, do I want to give this 4 or 4.5? Because it's...
Oh, I've already decided. This is getting 5 unused ring bells.
So this is I think our first 5.
Yeah, since we've started scoring. I mean, there's a match or two that could have got a 5 back in but
WrestleMania 3.
Yes, but
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man, that definitely would have gotten a 5.
But yes, since using the scoring system, this is my first 5, or either one of our first 5s. But I just can't sit back and not give this 5 unused ring bells. This was a phenomenal match. These are the type of matches that I love watching WrestleMania for, because you get these moments like this.
I don't know if I'm ready to give it a 5, but I think you have talked me into. I'm giving this 4.5 Bret Hart blood, sweat, and tears.
Aww. All right. 4. Okay, next thing we get is a surprise by Bobby Heenan. He has an interview with their newest acquisition, Lex Luger. So this is the first time we've got a chance to see him. He talks about bodybuilding and blah, 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 whatever. So,
I'm not a huge Lex Luger fan. Maybe this will change with this podcast. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I do like the torture rack. I think that's a really good finisher. I like his finisher.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so the next thing we get is interviews with both teams. We're about to have a 8-man tag match, and one team is the Big Boss Man, Virgil, Sergeant Slaughter, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, versus the Nasty Boys, Repo Man, and the Mountie. So they all do their little bit of interviews, and then they come out and have their match. And this wasn't a terrible match. It was actually short. Definitely considering you have an 8-man tag match, you would think pins would get broken up constantly. But this was actually kind of a short match. It wasn't bad, but just wasn't enough there to really care.
This seemed like the match of, well, we don't have anything for these 8 guys to do, so we're just going to throw them all in a big-ass match.
Yeah, we just need something for these guys. Also, we almost forgot, another reason this match was happening is because they had a special guest ring announcer, and that was Ray Combs, host of Family Feud at the time. So I think the whole idea was it was like this team versus this team, kind of like this family versus this family. And apparently some of these WWF superstars was going to be on Family Feud coming up that next week or something.
Yeah, facing, was it boxers, they said? World Boxing? Or
World Bodybuilders, I believe.
Bodybuilders.
It was bodybuilders versus wrestlers.
If it was WCW.
Yeah, that would have been interesting, right? Sure, Vince would have signed off on that. So Ray Combs, he does his little announcements, but he kind of does it with saying survey says and making little digs at all the heels. So that was very kind of interesting way to start this match. That was probably more entertaining than the actual match.
Yeah, I'm glad I hung around for that.
Yeah, not like I said, not that the match was horrible. There was nothing bad in the match. It just wasn't much, much going on there. I will have to point out that Virgil was wearing a face mask, like a nose. He broke his nose, so he's wearing a nose protector. That definitely comes into play at the end of the match, where one of the Nasty Boys took it off and tried to hit him over the head, but instead hits his own partner. And that's how the match ends. And Virgil gets the pin 1, 2, 3. They win the match.
Kind of sad that the tag team champions lose by a single punch. Mind you, it was the other nasty boy punching him that took him down to get the pin, but it was still a punch.
But anyhow, I'm going to give this 2.5 Virgil face masks.
I'm going to give this 2 cock punchers.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part. Yes, Big Boss Man did. Yeah, that was a very interesting part. He kind of punches Repo Man right in the nards.
Well, it was a little more than that. Repo Man is like doing these. He's jumping and dropping down on Big Boss Man's back, and then after like the third one, Big Boss Man like quickly turns around as he jumps in the air and just puts his fist up, and he just drops down on his fist, right on the nuts.
That was a pretty good part. I almost want to raise my score because
I'm going to stick with 2.
I'll stick with 2.5.
2 cock punchers, 2 balls, 2 busted balls. That's what I give it.
Wow. All right. Okay, so before the next match, we get an interview with Ric Flair and Mr. Perfect. Pretty good interview. They're always great on the mic.
It was a perfect interview.
It was perfect. And then we get Mean Gene Okerlund trying to give an update on Macho Man, but he doesn't get an interview in. So then next up we have what should have been the true main event of this show, but unfortunately egos came first. And that is for the World Wrestling Federation World Heavyweight Championship. The Macho Man Randy Savage versus the champion Ric Flair. Woo!
The ooh yeah versus the woo!
This was another phenomenal match. This was more blood in this match. So now we've got Bret Hart and Ric Flair's blood all over the mat. Just sprinkled together.
Flair always bleeds so well.
I mean, it gets in his blonde hair and it just looks. Oh yeah. So anyhow, this was a fantastic match. Had a fantastic story going on. Miss Elizabeth coming out. We get to see Shane McMahon as one of the backstage officials trying to prevent her from coming to ringside.
Our second sighting of Shane McMahon.
Yeah, our second sighting. Yes, we saw him at a Royal Rumble as a referee. But this, I don't know what more to say about this match. It had everything. It had blood. It had high flying. It had great wrestling moves, submissions, suplexes. I mean, this was just...
Those are all wrestling moves? Yes.
Those are all wrestling moves.
Yeah, those are all wrestling moves.
It was just a great, great match. I'm really having a hard time struggling with my decision on what to score this because I don't know. Should I do 2 5s in one show? This was a great match, though. I think I'm going to, just because one was better than the other, I still think the Bret Hart Rowdy Piper was a better match. But this was really good. And I don't know how many podcasts we have done with 2 really, really good matches like this. You know what?
This should be
I'm giving this 5 Miss Elizabeth Ric Flair kisses.
Aha. Well, yeah, this was a fantastic match. We got to see, Ric Flair giving Macho Man a high five in the face with, some stuff. It's fine. And, you also had Mr. Perfect giving Ric Flair some, assistance, because, he needed a pick-me-up when he was doing that figure 4 leg lock. It's also, it's fine. But, of course, the terrible thing is Macho Man won this by cheating. Because Ric Flair would never cheat, Rage. He is the cleanest player in the game.
I literally think his name says otherwise.
What nickname are you talking about?
The dirtiest player of the game.
No, cleanest. He's obviously the cleanest. He's like Mr. Clean in there with Mr. Perfect. Clean and perfect. Absolutely.
So what do you give this match?
What do I give this match? Well, it was awesome. It was a fantastic match. We got to see Ric Flair be Ric Flair. This match, I mean, the biggest problem with this match is it should have been the main event.
I completely agree with that because I have a hard time believe Hogan and Sid are going to match either one of these matches.
Yeah, I'm going to give this for the true main event.
Only 4, huh?
Yeah, no, I didn't think this was better than the Bret Hart versus Rowdy match, and I give that one a 4.5, so I feel like it's only fair. I had to give it a half a star less just because I felt like that was a better match.
Okay, so 4 bloody kisses then, maybe?
I just said the true main event. This is for the true main event.
Okay, alright, let's keep this ball rolling, and like I said, this has been a hell of a show so far. Okay, so first thing we get is a slew of interviews. First things first, we get Ric Flair. He's claiming that he was cheated. And they show the replay, and
he was cheated.
I don't know. I mean,
Macho Man clearly held those tights.
Yeah.
And Ric Flair didn't do anything to deserve that. The cleanest player of the game did not do anything to deserve having those tights pulled. They should take that title and give it right back to Flair.
Yeah, well, that's what he thinks too, and he's still, like his big shtick before he got the title was he's the true World Heavyweights Champion. And now I think he's still claiming it because he feels he was cheated.
He was cheated.
So then,
Macho Man took a shortcut.
So then after this interview, which was a great interview.
Yeah, it was.
But after this interview, we get another interview, this time of the new World Heavyweight Champion, and that is of Macho Man Randy Savage. And basically, he's asked about it, and he says, I don't care.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean,
pretty much all the interview was.
A good
I don't
interview,
care.
but
Too bad. I got a piece of him, and I'm going to take a piece of him, and I'll take more of a piece of him. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he essentially said, I told you that I would do anything to win this championship match, and now you know.
So yeah, that was one of the lesser exciting interviews.
Actually,
it was weird, but
he also talked about how he was mad. He's like, I didn't know you could make me any madder, but you did. Because they kept calling Miss Elizabeth a slut.
Yes.
Or not necessarily a slut, but they said that she cheats. He's like, you cheated just like your woman cheats.
Right.
So, yeah.
So then after that interview, we get an interview with the model Rick Martel right before his match.
Well, we get a little bit of a teaser for...
yeah, we do. We do get a video package of
Sid Justice
and
Hulk
Hogan. And oh my gosh. I remember watching Sid Justice, but...
I don't remember him.
I don't remember...
Justice.
I remember Sid Vicious. But what I was shocked about was his one-handed choke slam.
Yeah, he didn't grab their
My
back
goodness.
at all. Like, I felt bad for those people. Like
he literally is choking these people. He would have to.
Yeah.
There's no other way, but he is choking the life out of these people and choke slamming them. And this is probably
a lot of his moves just look devastating.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most hardcore segments we've seen because they showed a lot of footage of him throwing guys out of the ring onto a stretcher, wheeling guys into the steps, and it was pretty...
most of these looked really devastating, but when he throws the guy on the stretcher, they've got like a padding and everything, so that looked like he was just Here, I just gotta toss you on here. You got a landing there and everything. That one didn't look as bad.
Anyhow, I guess my point is it just looked a little bit more modern than we've seen in these old wrestling clips. A lot more, hardcore style. And yeah, every time they showed a video package of him doing wrestling moves, and they just looked vicious. Hence the name. See how I did there? So anyhow, after this video package, then after the Rick Martel interview, which was a fine interview, he threw a little kind of how do I want to say, a sensitive statement about Native Americans in that little package.
Sensitive. Good.
Yeah, so little be careful when you're watching that one. Little keep
little racy.
We're still about almost 30 years ago here, so the world hadn't learned yet. So anyhow,
but I enjoyed it.
The match was good.
Martel is interesting to me when I see him, character wise. I like him on the mic. He's fine in the ring. I don't look at Martel like, wow, this man is just fantastic in the ring. He's fine.
Yeah, this match didn't blow you away, but there was nothing bad about this match. It was pretty quick too. It didn't last very long. But this is the first time I think we've seen Tatanka on any of our podcasts.
Yes, and that is who Rick Martel faces, is Tatanka. I don't believe you mentioned Tatanka.
Oh, okay. So Tatanka,
that's where the racial.
Oh yeah. Came from. So yeah, there's a bunch of Native Americans in the ring when Tatanka comes out. Kind of do a little bit of a celebration thing there, and then the match happens. And like I said, this match was fine. Tatanka picks up the win. Anybody that knows the history knows that this is going to be the first win we've watched in many, many wins, because Tatanka goes on a pretty long undefeated streak. They didn't quite publicize it quite as much as like Goldberg's undefeated streak, but he does go on a 3-year undefeated streak. So that's kind of cool to see our beginning of it. I don't know if he'd been on any shows before this, but he hadn't been on any of the pay-per-views
this is our first
appearance of Tatanka on the pay-per-views. But I would give this probably 3, maybe 3.5 arrogant spritzers.
Arrogant spritzers, huh? I'm going to give this 2.5 racial slurs.
2.5, huh? So 2.5, that's below the 3 mark. You thought this match was...
It was fine. It's nothing to write home about, but it wasn't bad enough to go lower.
Fair enough. I guess I look at my scale as it's a bad match if it's under 3. If it's a good or decent match above 3.
I think it's a bad match if it's 2 or below.
Oh, so you've got a different idea on your...
3 is like, right there, middle of the pack. I guess, yeah.
Okay. All right, let's keep this going. Okay, so before the next match, we get an interview with Money Inc. That was pretty good. Ted DiBiase on the mic's always
good.
Fun. And then we get an interview with the Natural Disasters, who appear to be face now.
Don't buy it.
Don't buy it.
Don't.
Turns out Jimmy Hart has screwed over the Natural Disasters. He is now with Money Incorporated. And this was once again, not a horrible match, not a bad match, not a great match, but it was a good match. Of course, you got Ted DiBiase, so some good stuff in this. And the biggest question mark in this match was the fact that the way it ended. It was actually a really pretty decent match. And then, of course, Money Inc. just decides to take their titles and walk away. Match ends in a count-out. Natural Disasters end up winning the match, but not the titles. This was for the tag team titles, by the way.
Yeah. First off, I want to point out that Money Inc., what a good tag team. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you got $1 Million Man and you got a guy that's called IRS. You know, it just fits. You know, I like it when my tag teams make sense.
But just remember, Ted DiBiase, you aren't smarter than Cameron Grimes. So yeah, I don't know. There's a Cameron Grimes thing going on NXT. It's pretty funny. Gotta watch that with the ball bouncing, him trying to recreate the ball bouncing that the kid did at the one show. Good stuff. But anyhow, I'm gonna give this, I'm gonna give this 3 Weight Loss Anonymous chips.
Are you fat shaming now?
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. I apologize. 3 IRS audits.
I'm going to go with 2.5. 2.5. Typhoon really badly wanting to go outside the ropes, even though he really didn't have the momentum.
I'll tell you what. I forgot to mention that part. That was kind of bad. That was a bad spot.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
So Typhoon was thrown into the ropes, and he doesn't go out. He's just on the outside of the rope, and then you just see him jump over, like he just missed his spot. It was such a bad botch.
Yeah, it was very...
He just really wanted to get thrown over the ropes,
yeah.
So he had to do it himself.
Yeah, Ted was holding the rope down like he was supposed to kind of, stumble over it, and it just didn't seem to work
flow.
out. It did not flow for him.
It did not flow.
You could tell he missed
no progressive here.
Instead of just saying, okay, it didn't work, he just awkwardly said, well, I could get it on the second try.
I got this. Second try? Okay.
All right. Here we go. Okay, so this match was about as quick as any match we've ever seen. I'm sure there's been quicker, but this started off with the spit of tobacco in what they're referring to as the Rocket Owen Hart.
I looked away when it happened, and I legit thought there was shit all over their faces. And then Rage tells me, no, that's tobacco. He spit tobacco on him.
I think that's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think that's worse. I think I'd prefer shit.
I don't know. Tobacco's nasty.
Yeah, that's gross.
But anyhow, so yeah, that's how the match starts. Is Owen Hart gets in the ring, Skinner spits tobacco in his face, and really there was maybe 2 or 3 moves and then a roll up. And then Owen Hart gets the pin 1, 2, 3. This match was probably less than a minute long. I mean, it was super quick. I'm going to have to just give it 1.5, tobacco spits.
Ba-doo! See, I feel like, yeah, I'm going to have to this, 2 shits. 2 shits. I mean, I'm going to stick with 2 instead of 1.5, only because it's not like it was bad. It was just short.
It was just
over. In
to me, there just wasn't anything here.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. It just, there wasn't anything. Yeah, like you said. And then it was disgusting. Maybe I should go down.
For a show that's just had really stellar matches. This was just
we had 2
quickie.
We had 2 of some possibly the best matches we've watched in this one show.
Yeah, so this has been an amazing show so far. This is kind of our first, in my opinion, real dud. And like you said, it wasn't like the match itself was bad. It just lasted all but
it was just a
40 seconds or something.
It wasn't even a squash match because I feel like Skinner pretty much had the upper hand up until that roll up.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so official time was 1:36, so apparently it was longer than I thought.
We've talked longer than that match.
Yeah, we've actually spent more time talking about it than we actually watched it, so we'll go ahead and just move on then. Okay, so before the match, we get a Sid Justice
Psycho Sid.
Psycho Sid, which they finally do refer to him as.
I don't want to hear you
during
say
the match
Justice
though.
ever again.
Yeah, so they get a Psycho Sid interview where he promises this will be Hogan's last match.
If only.
We will So we actually need to back the trolley up because we forgot to talk about a Brutus the Beefcake interview before the Owen Hart Skinner match, where it was first revealed, or at least to us on any of our pay-per-views, referring to the facial accident that he had during a boating accident.
Actually, I think they have mentioned the boating accident. I just don't think we realized that since that he hasn't wrestled.
Yeah, so he talks about his friendship with Hogan and everything, and I mean it was just an interesting interview. But beyond that, we went back to Psycho Sid. Psycho Sid referring to this being Hogan's last match, but then they show a clip of Hogan talking to Vince McMahon, a sit-down interview, not quite the energetic interview we're used to Hogan doing, saying that only he will know if this will be his final match, and he doesn't know until he gets out of the ring. So he's not really confirming nor denying. Obviously, we know it's not his last match. Maybe it was his last match for a while, though. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Based on the ending, I would say no.
So, so you're getting ahead of yourself. So, after this interview, we get the match. We get Sid coming out with Harvey Whippleman being more or less his announcer. He takes over his announcing duty and calls out his own wrestler. And then, of course, Hogan comes out to his music. And before the music even gets cut off, like way before the music gets cut off, Psycho Sid decides to attack Hogan during the theme music.
Yeah, apparently the guy doing the theme songs, he wasn't paying attention. He's just like lying there like, all right, still gotta let this go. Oh shit, they're started. Let's cut this.
So, and this match wasn't horrible, but
I would say this is one of the better Hogan matches.
Yeah,
because he just gets his ass kicked by Psycho Sid for most of it.
Yeah, this was mostly Sid. Less of Hogan, more trying to show Hogan's strength by like overcoming getting beat up by Sid.
Oh yeah, he's
so it was
getting
a very
his ass
different
kicked, and of course Hogan
style Hogan match. Another thing I'd like to point out, because I think this might be the first time we'd ever seen it. Maybe Warrior did it. I can't remember if he ever got a chance to. But this might be the first time we've seen anybody kick out of the leg drop. Hogan did the big boot and leg drop.
I think Warrior did.
I don't remember if Hogan got the move out. I'd have to go back and watch the match. But yeah, Psycho Sid actually kicks out of the leg drop. But instead of that being miraculously the way he defeats Hogan, instead Harvey Whippleman comes into the ring, and I just looked it up because they don't officially announce who wins this match. They never give us, they just ring the bell. The match doesn't end in a pinfall, submission, anything like that. They actually disqualified Sid, and Hogan got the win. Because I'm guessing they're saying because Harvey Whippleman came into the ring. And
that's a travesty for Sid.
We thought
he can't control what that little man does.
We thought while watching it that Hogan might have gotten disqualified for pushing the referee. But instead, it was actually Sid gets disqualified. So Hogan wins this match by disqualification. But then a turn of events, which was, in my opinion, actually more exciting than the match itself.
Hulk Hogan is the Tom Brady of frickin' wrestling.
Oh, we're not going to get into that debate because you'll lose. So, but anyhow, more interesting than the actual match itself was that Papa Shango, first time we've seen him.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell he's doing here.
Papa Shango comes out to attack Hogan to help beat up Hogan with Sid. But then the big reveal is that the Ultimate Warrior comes back for the first time, and who knows how long he's been gone. But the Ultimate Warrior ends up coming back and helping Hogan fend off Papa Shango and Psycho Sid. And what's really interesting about this is how different Warrior looks. This is after the steroid scandal. He is definitely off the juice, and he looks different. Very different. I mean, don't get me wrong. Hogan, you can tell, is smaller
as well,
but not a huge.
Hey, maybe that's the reason we're getting less Hogan screaming at the mic interviews.
Oh,
he's off the steroids. Juice. He's no longer, pissed off all the time.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, like I said, this was a decent match. Wasn't a great match. Wasn't a bad match. But I agree, it's one of the better Hogan matches we have watched, mainly because it was different than the most. Most Hogan matches are pretty the same, I think, where this match was a little different. It actually showed Hogan vulnerable, getting beat up. So it was just a very different
take. He gets beat up all the time, and then he does this stupid little shaking in his head, and he's like, "Nuh-uh."
So I'm going to give this 3.5 one-handed choke slams.
You know what?
Which he did put on Hogan, by the way.
He did. Not as
not as high up and not as devastating as the ones they showed in the video package.
A few things I want to bring up. Number one, why the hell? And he does this twice. Why the hell did Sid Vicious throw Hogan into the ropes?
Who's Sid Vicious?
Psycho Sid Vicious.
Really don't like that Justice name, do you?
No, I don't. Especially now. There's no reason whatsoever to call him Sid Justice anymore. They have forced him to be a heel because even though Hogan's the heel in this story. Sid throws Hogan into the ropes. Twice he does this. And then Sid drops face down for Hogan to go over him. Hogan stops. Both times, Sid just slowly gets up, turns around, and Hogan punches him in the face. Like, number one, you're a giant-ass man. Why the hell did you need to drop down anyways? Just punch him as he comes back. Do a wrestling move. Why did you try to do this whole fancy dropping down? And both times doesn't work. Happens exactly the same both times. Annoyed me. First bit, that annoyed me. Another thing that annoyed me. Papa Shango comes in. Hey, cool. Something new. We get to see the Godfather in makeup. And he comes out. He's beating up Hogan. Warrior comes out. He sees Warrior. He looks directly at Warrior. He waits ever so patiently for the Warrior to just run into him and clothesline him outside of the ring. You should have had him continuously beating up Hogan, turn around at the last minute for Warrior to come in for that clothesline. You don't just stand there like a jackass, like a deer in headlights, and wait for the man to give you a clothesline. I'm all about selling moves. I do not like it when it looks ridiculously staged.
Well, unfortunately, that is what wrestling is staged. And sometimes it just happens. And
well,
I don't
you're
know
an
what
actor,
to tell you.
and that was bad acting.
Fair enough. Okay, so what do you give this match?
I give this 3.5 missing muscles.
Missing muscles.
Because they're not on the steroids anymore. They're gone. They're missing.
Fair enough. Okay, so that is it for WrestleMania 8. Well, let's go into Boomer's Facts.
All right, Jim Blaze fans, it's time for Boomer's Backstage Facts. And this week we are talking about WrestleMania 8. Now you have to remember at this particular time, and I'm going to take sides with Blaze, which I don't always do. Haha. But I was not a fan of Sid Justice when Sid came in. You know, Sid's whole career was based on his character. He was a large, dominating man. And it kind of lost that luster with the Sid Justice thing. But initially they thought maybe he could replace Hogan. And that's kind of like where we start here. WrestleMania 8 was going to be the end of Hulk Hogan. Between Dr. George being convicted in the steroids and Hulk Hogan's awful appearance on the Arsenio Hall show. On top of all this, they then had claims of inappropriate sexual advances happening behind the scenes. So, yeah, it's a rough time. And, but WWE overcome because this is, to this point, probably overall one of the best WrestleManias. I mean, despite everything going on, it was a great Mania. They delivered and they managed to fill up the Hoosier Dome. So, and speaking of that, I guess this is technically my first backstage fact. The attendance for WrestleMania 8 was 62,167 fans. The truth behind that number is that 15,000 tickets were given away. Like, where the hell was I when that happened? But they were looking at ticket sales. They wanted the dome to be full to max capacity. So they did what they had to do. And it's not the first time. Now those days are gone by. We don't even have fans right now. That's coming soon. But the days have gone by where they give out tickets because they can't fill anywhere, because that's definitely not an issue. So let's start with my first fact. Now, a logically and originally planned match, a logical originally planned match for WrestleMania 8 was Shawn Michaels versus Marty Jannetty. The barbershop incident, the breakup of the Rockers, had just happened right before WrestleMania 8, and but here we go again, man. I hope someday we get a movie and a book about Marty fucking Jannetty, man. I'm not trying to hate, but anyway, here we go. 2 weeks after Shawn's heel turn aired, Marty was arrested again. This time, his 19-year-old date was arrested for using a fake ID. Marty thought it was a good idea to confront the cops about it. And he ended up being arrested, and they also found cocaine on his person, whatever. So after the arrest, he was suspended indefinitely. He served 6 months house arrest and would return in October 92 to feud with Shawn. Going down a similar path, as much as we want to pick on Marty, this was LOD's first appearance for several months. After Royal Rumble 92, Hawk failed his second wellness drug test, whatever you want to call it, in a row. So LOD dropped the titles to Money Inc. and got to go home for a little while. And it's kind of funny going back and doing these and sharing all this knowledge that I know, but I guess now that I'm recording it and we're going to this chronological order, I'm like, wow, you see a repeat pattern of certain instances like partying, backstage drugs, getting in trouble with law. And here's another kind of hostage situation. Before WrestleMania, Jake requested his release, but he was denied. So at WrestleMania, he pulled an Ultimate Warrior, waiting until right before his match with Undertaker. He went into Vince, demanded his release, or he wasn't going to do the match. Obviously, it was granted, and after this match, Jake was gone and went to WCW, where they totally dropped the ball. That's a whole nother podcast. But it was kind of funny, too, because now you're looking at Taker, and of course, they're not talking about the streak yet, but so far, 2 opponents, 2-0, and they both are gone from the company. It's just funny. It worked for the character. I didn't know this when I was a kid, but I did notice the fact that Taker beat Snuka, he disappeared. Taker beat Jake, he disappeared. So even though it was backstage gaga, it kind of worked to sell the whole thing, So here's the next one involving actually Shane O'Mac. The night before Mania, Bret Hart and his wife were in a bar where young Shane O'Mac was hanging out. When Bret went to introduce Shane to his wife, she acted uncomfortable, and Bret thought, well, this is kind of weird. He found out later that Shane had actually tried to hit on her, and there was a confrontation. Hart said he had no intentions of hurting Shane, and I wish, I could have found either one of them, give the full details. But regardless, there was a fight because Shane O'Mac was trying to pimp down on Bret's wife. The next fact is actually about not only my favorite match on this Mania, but one of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time. And of course, it's Bret Hart and Rowdy Piper for the Intercontinental Championship. And Bret and Rowdy actually had dinner at a diner in New Brunswick in late 92 to plan this match out. They spent 7 hours in this diner because Piper wanted this match to be perfect and to be able to help Bret to escalate to the next level. And it shows you just who Piper was, man. And it'll always be one of my favorite matches. It was the only title, well, technically later he wins tag titles with Flair, but we like to forget that happened. So this was really Piper's only title run, and it was a huge moment, not only to win it at a pay-per-view, but to get to defend it at Mania, whether he won or not. And actually, the next fact is also about this match, because at this point, with everything going on, this is almost PG before the Attitude Era. But at this time in the WWF, bleeding was not allowed. But Piper and Bret thought that, the color would bring to the drama of the story. So they did it very convincing. Raging Blaze just watched the match. I encourage you to see if you noticed too, but Bret actually did a blade job during a punch by Piper. And they covered up well. No one noticed. And when they went backstage, they just played it off like Piper actually busted Bret open because accidents were okay. You just weren't allowed to blade. Now, what's funny is on this same pay-per-view, Flair and Macho also decided we got to have blood. Come on, man. No one bleeds like Flair, right? Unfortunately, you watch this match, they didn't hide it at all. Randy did his double axe handle, I believe it was, and you could see Flair make the move. The story is that Flair actually almost got fired over that bleeding incident. The history of pro wrestling can be so crazy. Okay, and now we go into the main event, and you guys talked quite a bit about this because, of course, it's the first appearance of Papa Shango on this. But Sid actually was not supposed to kick out of the leg drop. When the leg drop happened is when Papa was supposed to show up and break the pin and then start beating on Hogan, but he wasn't out there, and Harvey actually improvised that run-in to cause the quote-unquote, horrible DQ. But, yeah, nobody knows what the hell took Papa Shango so long to get out there. And finally, kind of a fact about it, but facts are facts. Within a month after this WrestleMania, Hogan, Piper, Roberts, and Sid were all gone from the company. You talk about a shot to your roster. But at this point, I should have put the whole rankings together, but no doubt this, for me, and the WrestleMania rankings is number one at this point, for sure. That is all my backstage facts about WrestleMania 8. If you would like to, you can follow me on Facebook at Tim Boomer Chase. I'm on the Insta at Chase Tim, and you can find me on Twitter at TCBoomer77. Until next week, this is Boomer. Take it easy, Rage and Blaze fans. Back to you guys.
Favorite match of the night. Okay, so best match of the night. I mean, there's two really good ones that it could have definitely went either way, but I'm going to have to give it to Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper for the Intercontinental Championship. I just thought that match was phenomenal. I mean, the other match was great also, but you gotta choose one. You gotta pick one, and I've just decided I'm going with that one.
Well, I agree. Both matches were phenomenal, and to be honest with you, I don't know if I agree with it, but I'm going with the other one, just because you picked the Bret Hart versus Rowdy Piper. I'm going to go with the Ric Flair versus Macho Man because honestly, I was having a hard time choosing, and I let you choose for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, like I said, either match could have been the best match of the night. This was actually a really strong pay-per-view to begin with. Most of these matches were very good. Those two just definitely stole the show. There was only one match, in my opinion, and I'll save that for our worst match segment, that really just didn't do much for me. But overall, this was a great WrestleMania. Probably the best that we've seen.
Maybe.
Okay.
We'll find out with WrestleMania rankings.
Oh, that's fair enough.
Worst match of the night.
So, worst match of the night was really an easy one just because there wasn't much to it. It just didn't really bring much. It's a shame having such a great wrestler as Owen Hart involved in this match, but it was definitely Owen Hart and Skinner. The match was about a minute and a half, and there wasn't a lot going on for it. The biggest spot in the whole match was tobacco getting spit in Owen Hart's face, which was just flat out disgusting. He deserves better. Unfortunately, he seemed to be the match where they had to set stuff up or something. It's like we just got to get a few things together. Just go out and distract the crowd for a minute. But unfortunately, that's all that match was. It just wasn't enough there to do anything for me. So by far the worst match of the night.
Yeah, for me, worst match of the night. Same. That match was literal shit. I mean, I say this because literal shit got spit on someone. Yeah, it just wasn't that good. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just short and boring and nothing happened. Which sucks because I love Owen Hart. Don't give a shit about Skinner, but I love Owen Hart.
Yeah, that's what I think is disheartening about this, is because his brother had the best match of the night, one of the best matches we've ever seen at a WrestleMania so far up to this point. But then Owen ends up getting this, just nonsense filler match, So it's just a shame.
Agreed.
WrestleMania rankings. Okay, so I thought this overall was probably the best WrestleMania we've seen so far in our podcast, and I'm definitely putting this right at the top. This is skyrocketing right to the top. This is number one on my list. So I'm starting this off WrestleMania 8, number 1. There was 2 matches that were just freaking amazing, and to be honest, the Hogan match wasn't terrible. So, I mean, there was really only one lackluster match. The rest were very watchable matches. I thought this one was really exciting. It had a very different ending. With a run-in and a comeback and stuff. We haven't really got anything like that.
We still got Hogan posing for 20 minutes.
But this time we got Hogan posing with fireworks. Yeah. Even though he seemed to forget they were there, and I think he burned himself. So yeah, I'm going to put this, slide this at my number 1. So that'll just move the rest of my rankings down. So WrestleMania 3 is number 2. Number 3 would be WrestleMania 2. Number 4 would be WrestleMania 4. Number 5 would be WrestleMania 6. Number 6 would be WrestleMania 5. And then, of course, number 7 would be the last on the bottom of my list would be WrestleMania 1 still.
Yeah, I struggled with this because on one hand, WrestleMania 3 does have probably still the best match we've seen with Macho Man versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. But this has 2 really good matches that, while they may not have surpassed that match, they were both really close. So I'm debating on whether I want 3 at top or this at top. It's definitely 1 or 2.
Well, you got to make a decision. That's what we're here to do.
I think I am, because this has 2 great matches. I think I'm going to agree with you and put this at the top of my list. So it's going to go this WrestleMania 8, WrestleMania 3, 2, 7, 5, 6, 4, and then 1.
Oh, I forgot to mention 7, didn't I?
Did you forget to mention 7?
Yeah, so 7 would be my 4th, actually. So yeah, I just screwed up my rankings. It'd be 3, 2. Oh, it'd be 8, 3, 2, 7, 4, 6, 5, 1. So yeah, I forgot to add 7 to my old list.
Yeah, well, shame on you.
Sorry about that.
How dare you?
So
that's a bad rage. That is a bad rage.
Bad. Okay,
Bad rage.
So that's going to do it for our WrestleMania 8 podcast. Like I said, I thought this was a freaking fantastic show. Hopefully the quality of some of these shows get better and better as we keep watching. I know we're not
looking forward to some good
quite
stuff
to
in
the
90s.
Attitude Era yet, but we're getting there. We're creeping up. We're starting to see some new faces. I'm pretty excited about what's about to come.
I mean, I completely agree. I'm excited as well. 90s gives us some good stuff.
Definitely some.
And I
some
think
of the
we're
best.
going to get more interesting storylines once we get into, when Raw starts. Not to mention, this next Royal Rumble is our first Royal Rumble where it
matters.
The last one mattered. The last one was for the title. So, I mean, you got to say that matters too. But this is the first one where winning it gets you the main event.
I agree. All right. This has been the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
Whoa!
What'd I do?
Shameless plugs.
Oh.
Come on, Rage.
Sorry.
We got to pimp our stuff that nobody uses.
We do got to pimp our stuff. Let's plug the pluggables.
All right. You can find me on the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the YouTubes at Dragon Blazer Production. You can follow me on Twitter at Dragon Blazer Pro. And you know what? I keep forgetting to mention this, but we have a phone. We have a voicemail where you can call in, give us opinions, tell us what you ate today. I don't give a shit. You can call, leave a voicemail, and get put on the Rage and Blaze show. Now, if you tell me what you ate, I probably am not going to care and put you on the show. Or maybe I will.
Well, wait a second. There used
we
to
got to
be
take what we can.
Well, there used to be WWE themed ice cream bars and all sorts of things like that.
If you call me and tell me you just tried the WWE themed ice cream bar, then that might get put on the show.
If you can find them anymore,
or
they're probably all melted by now or ate.
You know what? If anybody cares enough to call the show, you're probably going to get put on regardless. So, you can call that number at 567-443-0663. Call us. Call the Rage and Blaze.
Okay. For me, you can find the Rage and Blaze Show on Facebook, at the Rage and Blaze Show on Instagram, and at Ricky Rayberg on Twitter. This has been the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And good night from Rage's Pit. And here is your winners, and still podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, this is Blaze from the Rage and Blaze and the Boomer and Blaze Show. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more wrestling content.